You will not make any distinction between people of different color, people with different sexual preferences. You will accept everyone. What are you finger painting?
A bear?
Ein bear? Und bear has nothing to do with accepting people of different races.
I didn't know what else to paint.
Start over. You will finger paint what we tell you. Go.
You will paint what we tell you. Hell no, I ain't painting what you tell me. I ain't even listening to what you tell me. YouTube has been telling me to paint what MSM is painting, but I don't watch MSM. I don't know what they're painting. And if I do, I learned how to look through it and see the truth. You know, paint is to cover the surface of something as a decoration or protection. You know, to depict, to produce, to give a description of. And they'll tell you it comes from an origin of Latin to pinger, and then to French to pendry, and then to paint, and then English to paint. And that's a lie. It comes from the ancient English, and it was paint, P-A-I-N-T. Comes through the same base word as for children, the paideia. And this is also, you know, the same place where your word payday comes from. And this reads two different ways. And the first time you read through it, you know, it's O-D. And you know, some people pronounce that the and some D, but it means the same thing. Oh, the Jesus. And so this comes from the word yes, Y-E-S. Ancient English, the same where your word yesy and yeses. I showed in that last movie, it means the things that you're allowed. And the yes ofs, these are the people who had the power. You know, the ofs, it's a legal term. You know, the one holding the yes of us, you know, the one holding the power to hand out the yeses. And it's the symbol of the Jesuits. You know, they had the power to hand out the yeses, the yes of us. And you'll see this behind the Pope. And the Jesuits will wear it right there on their neck. That's who has the power to hand out the yeses. You know, the old Roman Mafia symbol. And always with the three vowels underneath, you know, yes, 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 3 times. Comes from the same place, this word here in the Hebrew, you know, they shall do, yesa. And as I have commanded, they shall do, yesa, will do. And what it means is, and of the yes ofs, you know, the house, the ones that hold the power, the yes ofs, they pen, they write a feat to paid ya, P-A-I-D-ya, to a feat to paid ya. And so that doesn't mean a permit, that means a job. That means that this is going to be a feat here, it's going to be a job, and a feat to paid ya. And so it's talking about the permit for children. There was a huge tax on having kids. And it's the same thing they're doing now. You know, everybody was sterile. You had to go see the pediatrician, you know, if you wanted to get a kid. And it was going to cost you. He was going to pay through. But this is also of the yes ofs. They benefit. You know, they benefit. They will write it up if they can benefit. The pen will fit. It's talking about, you know, politicians, you know, if it will benefit, the pen will fit. And so it means, you know, that they're writing these laws up to benefit theirself and to pay you, to pay you. And there's a bunch in this, and I'll get more into it later. You can see here at Matthew 2, you know, the dia is through. And it's the same, you know, Vav, to pay Dion. To pay Dion. So this is Dion here, goddess of fertility in the moon. You know, goddess of the childbirth. Egyptian equivalent Neith, which is a mispronunciation from somebody who didn't understand how to read that. They say the name probably derives from Latin dias, meaning godly. And you see it better in the Greek, you know, the Dios, Dios, belonging to heaven. Goddess of fertility and childbirth, protection of women during labor. So if you wanted a child, you had to pay Diane. Pedion. Pay Diane. Diana was worshipped by women who wanted to be pregnant, or who, once pregnant, prayed for an easy delivery. You pay Diane. And this was done at the foot of Dion. It was at the foot of the mountain where all the rich people would go and worship once a year. And when I say worship, I mean got drunk with Dionysus. And you did this at the foot of Mount Olympus. You can see your word holy in there. And it's Alum Fuse, F-U-S. Alum Fuse. That's where all the gods come. They fuse from Mount Olympus. And this is coming from the Dionysus. And you can see the spelling here, the little mark over the O. And it's saying to read this D-I-D. Did so sun, S-O-S-U-N-O-N-U-S. Did so sun on us as. Did so sun on us as is the god of wine. It has to do with a new and a full moon. That was the old payday, was on a new and full moon. And same as the military today, they still get paid every 2 weeks, twice a month. A new moon and a full moon paid you. P-A-I-D-Y-O-U. These are all the words they'll give children. The paid you, the pity on, and the pity of is, and the paid I, pay through. So back in the day, the whizzes read this, oh, the yes of seeing a fit to paid ya. The yes of seeing a fit to paid you. You're going to have to pay to have a kid. And then Vav is not necessarily and, but connected to. And too much, M-H, to much colluth. Too much collude. They in cahoots, in a collude. Of too health enforcem. Of too the health, E-L-T-H. Too healthy, they enforce them. The health enforcement. Same thing going on today. They're trying to make everybody sterile. And in order to have kids, you're going to have to go to the pediatrician. And he's going to hook you up with a kid after you pay through. It's going to be a huge tax. And it was the same thing in this day here. And you can see it in the beginning story in Matthew, birth of Jesus. When they say Jesus was born, it wasn't. It wasn't till the next day when they had made the journey to pay Diane. When you want to be careful with your baby, you put them in a crib as around to paid you. A crib as peri to paid you. And ought to us those health on the state, S-T-A-T-E, the state upon, over. The state upon a win, W-H-N, a win to pay Diane. And health on its this then okay on. They give you the okay on. They dawn to paid on meta Mary as this meter as what to. To pay Diane, to have a child meta within Mary as you got to get married first. And this meter, this time as ought to. It's time you ought to get married because you done knocked her up. And to the peasants, forsaken has on ought to. And you peasants, you ought to get married when you knock her up. So Diane had another name, and it was Nix is what they call it. And that's pronunciation from somebody who didn't understand how to read this. With a Roman equivalent of Nox and a Norse equivalent of Not. And was personification of the night. Near the beginning of creation, and mothered the other personified deities there was no gods. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. Gods were a word to give you an understanding that would take a whole page to write what that word meant. And so you could use one word instead of writing a whole page every time that you want to get that idea across. That's what in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's what that means. And she was the mother of Hypnos, of sleep, and Thanatos, of death and darkness, and was born out of chaos and gave birth to the brightness. Born from the chaos with Urbis, the darkness, and gave birth to the brightness and the day, the comer. And then later gave birth to doom, destiny, destruction, death, sleep, dreams, blame, pain, distress. The mother of all these things. And she was always pictured with a dark veil. Even in a statue form, had this veil over. Even in the 10th century, was pictured with the prophet Isaiah with this cover over. You see the nicks here. And so the ancient gods also fit in with the story. The hand of God and the prophets, they all fit together. And if you look closely at this word, it's N-U-X. And it has the mark above the U. So it's reading, when you come to it, it's N, and then go the other end, T-S. U-T-S. And so when you go to pay to this God, you are P-A-I-N-T-S-W-T-S. The paint sweats, to protect. And so before it was all chaos until paint sweats gave brightness and day and doom and destiny and destruction and death, paint sweats. You can see that here in the pain assessment tool, what color it's painting. But this is a different word, and it's the PA is the face, I-N, the face in. It's how the doctor tells how much pain medication you need. So Diana's the moon, and if you put a T-U-R-E behind this, you could see better what Diana means. It's die nature, through nature, and Chur is said to mean the law, and it's through natural. It's the law, the way things are going to be. It's in your word, your periods, around the odes. The ides are having to do with the moon and the months. Ides are coming with the tides, and odes is a varied or irregular meter. It's you're irregular. I haven't had my regular this month. Ides and the odes. The odes through Anna, through the moon. Your pay day is pay through. The D means through. You get paid through. And it had to do with the moon, Diana. Pay through Anna. It had to do with the moon cycles. And what you pay the serpent, that's your fate. But your pain, your P-A-I-N-E, is your pay of seed life. Seed life. And that's your children. In the Hebrew, N-E-B-N-E, the in seed life, your ben. And so the pay in seed life is your pain. And that's the pain you have having kids. And so that's what you shame them. That's what you name them. And Orpheus says that it was Nyx. It was the first principle that all creation comes from. And occupies a cave in which she gives oracles. Cronus chained with sleep, drunk on honey, dreams and prophesizes outside the cave. Adrastia clashes cymbals and beats upon her tympanum, moving the entire universe in an ecstatic dance to the rhythm of Nyx's chanting fanes. The strange, monstrous, hermaphrodite, Orphic demiurge was the child, was the pains, the pay nix. And the reason this is the mother is because, the poet could write these 3 letters, and he can change the mark around on top and underneath and make this say so much. If it said and nets, it would be a key, it would be a W, and it would read, if you put the mark above the X, you would read it when, what's, when. I was sitting there minding my own business, when, what's, when hit me. And if you put the mark above the N, the same way it would read, what's, when, what's. And if you use the G symbol under the N, and it came after pay, it would be the pay and then N in this way, the paints when what's, the paints when what's. So this word could be used for all kind of things, but it had to do with the contents, the NTS in contents, that's where that comes from. And it's the contents of the time, the contents of the X, of the plants, what it's made of, when and time and what it's made of. So it has so many children because it has so many colors of paint, And so I'm sure that it would always be followed with another hint to which one of the children is talking about. Diana is revered in modern neo-pagan and Wiccan as a triple deity merged with the goddess of the moon, Luna, and Selena. In the underworld, usually Hecate. And of course she is. And it's in all the words. And you're going to see this in a lot of words that end with the NTS. And when you had to let it out, you vent. When nobody else would listen to your rants, they were directed at the God. And when you were denied, you can't. And when your prayers were inaudible, they were just grunts. And when you just came out and said what you wanted, you were blunt. And when you were asked why, you made your points, the poi, the poem, the mouth that makes, the poi, the mouth makes. When you want something, that's where you directed your prayers to. But this word blunts helps define this NTS. Bull is in the story, the parable, the bull that encloses, the meaning. And so when you're blunt, you're coming right out with it. When bull, BLE, when bull, and confused, upon thus is called his name in bull. For there, the bull, in the line underneath you has this read 4 L's, come back and read the 2 L's again. Bull, leave. And the line underneath there has to read this YEW again, believe you. All can phrase 'em the Babel key. Some says, believe you, spit clears. Amiss is the fix, sieve, the PIX, the FIX, the fix, and the SIEVE is what you receive. Deceive is to see, SI, and then have. To see, have something is to sieve it, to receive. And the fixive, all pin upon, PNI, and then PN again. All pin upon clears. So the page is not the children. That's what it cost you. The pain is the children. And sometimes the little pains that leave like Legos all over the floor. And then that's a foot to paid you. It still doesn't mean children. It means the foot to paid you. And it might be a poetic way of writing children. But there's a lot more in the word because all this reads 2 times. And some of these words read backwards and inside out when you come back. And that's what all these marks are. And so, of the yes house, the IHS house, the yes house, they benefit to paid you. They benefit. They'll write up a permit if you paid, and much collude what to health enforce 'em. You know, the House of Yeses making the rules in order to benefit, too much to pay you, too much in collusion with the health enforcement, the health enforcement on. And then this of the for such kind is almost right. But this is the tong, T-O-N-G, tonger. Tonger is an ancient word for the guy who had to reach in the frozen pot and pull out the male DNA that's fixing to go into your egg. He would use these tongs. You know, and the tonger to you what to, and then nestin, N-E-S-T-I-N, what's going to be in your nest is for such kind is, of the for such kind is, the tonger to you to nest in. And that's where your word destiny comes from. They were selecting your destiny to you. The tonger to you nest in, he basilia. Basil is the ring around the outside of the watch. You know, it has to do with the time. The 12 gods of the 12 moon, the 12 months. The tone, the hour on. The tone, the hour on. And so you would probably read this last two, you know, on the tonger to you to nest in, he, the basilia, the time it on, hour on. He times it on the hour. And that's because your birth sign was your job. You know, if you got born at the wrong time, you couldn't do nothing but roof. You were a roof for the rest of your life. You had to be born on the right star to be the king. And so Nix is like contents, what's in it, you know, whether it's time, you know, the nuts, what quality it has, when it's, what cycle, what's, you know, the color is a cycle. And that's why it was the first God, you know, everything was all one, and that was the separation of the different colors of the shades, dividing the day and the night. And so in the poetry, you know, that's the first thing you learn is all the gods and what qualities they had. So in the proper old English, you know, anything that followed a word ending in NTS, anytime you had a word ending in NTS, you would have something that follows it to better explain it. And I guess we would put it ahead nowadays, and we would finish a sentence with this often. And then when you come back and read this the second time with the directional markings in here, it'll paint you a different picture of what Jesus means. But my program's loaded up, I'll have to get it in the next movie.
Don't forget, I won't forget.
Alright, I'm gonna cut this off here. Good day.